Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our discussion of the finale of Presumed Innocent. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, I'm Helen.
Hi, I'm Violet.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. All right, so the finale of Presumed Innocent Season 1. They were just renewed for Season 2, by the way, which is so exciting. I think it's going to be a standalone season, kind of like Fargo. And I'm so very on board with that plan. This has been a really fun show to podcast, even if we got nearly nothing correct the entire time.
I know, I felt fucked.
I think I even said maybe it's Barbara in the last show, like jokingly, since she's the one person I just cannot suspect.
Yeah.
As I was simultaneously completely overlooking the actual murderer because she was actually the one person I never once suspected.
No, I don't think she was mentioned once in the whole podcast.
No. There was no Jaden on the bingo card.
No, and I didn't get a chance to watch the movie. I wanted to do it also,
I know.
but we were just recording really quickly. But Kimberly, you said
it was Barbara. Interesting. So they did change it for the TV show.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's really cool that they changed it because otherwise you're just going to the, finale that you're heading towards.
Yeah. Well, I didn't actually intend to spoil myself, but I read a review.
You read an article that had it in there?
Yeah, that spoiled it for me. So I was like, man.
This doesn't mean anything because I never said it on the podcast, but when I was watching the first few episodes, she was the first person I suspected because I was thinking she had motive being the jealous wife.
Yeah.
But then the way that Ruth portrayed her, I just wasn't getting that vibe off her.
Yeah.
She's just too chill.
We also have to remember, it's hard to remember this, but they didn't get the scripts, you know what I mean? So they're just acting and they have no idea if they're the one who's done it.
If they've done it, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I find that quite interesting.
Especially if they knew that the killer won't be the same as in the book and the show. Because they probably know the show, the movie. They probably know the movie. I would guess they've seen it.
Well, they did a really good job because when it got to that scene, I was like, oh, okay, so they are going with Barbara. And then all of a sudden, Jaden walks in. I'm like, oh, okay.
I know. It was so good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get there. But yeah, it's definitely had to have been fun and challenging for them all to be acting as if it could be them or not be them the whole time. And they did great.
Can we do a quick aside of, did you like this ending or not?
I did personally, because I did not see that coming whatsoever. And it really did shock me that it was her. Like she was literally the last person. I didn't even think of her honestly once. And so that's what made me, I like that when I literally have no idea what's going to happen. So
I think where I fall is that I feel like if you're looking at the way a whodunit story is being told, did they give us enough clues during the telling of the story to even allude to Jaden at all? And I'm not sure they did. So that I don't know that they quote unquote played fair, where they actually gave the viewer enough information to come to that conclusion on their own. It's almost, in my opinion, like they deliberately planted nothing but red herrings throughout the entire series for all the other characters and led us down all these different paths. And in the very end, they pull out the least suspecting character because they never planted any clues for her at all. And that just made me wonder, is that even fair when it comes to a mystery whodunit story?
I think they did plant some clues, though, because John and I were talking about it afterwards, and he was less against it than I was. But the conversations that she had, kind of, you can read them this way now that we know that it was her. I think, and I don't know, the disassociating, her talking about that was her wondering if that had happened to her. Obviously, now that we know she did it, so
it didn't seem to happen to her because she said that she didn't. At first, she thought it was like a dream, but then she remembered everything because she was covering her tracks.
Yeah, I just felt like maybe she was looking for a way that she hadn't done what she did because it was too hard for her to cope with.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then again, there's also conversations she had like with Barbara where she's asking her mom, did he do this after he had beat up Brian
Yeah.
Ratzer?
I went back to a couple of scenes, and yeah, for me, I read it as her being anxious about her father, the way she behaved. She was more timid than Kyle. She was less angry, and she was just anxious. So that's how I read her.
I also went back to the very first episode just to see what we do see of her in the first episode, which isn't much. Like I didn't watch the whole thing, but in the very first scene, it's just her enjoying her morning. Like they're by the pool and she's just there, and she gets a call from Raymond and Dad, it's for you, and just very easy breezy. And I just was watching that more critically now. Like, does that look like somebody who just committed a murder like the night before? And it could be disassociation. It could be that.
It was. I think it definitely is. Like when you watch through all of her scenes, she's asking like, it's like she didn't even know that Rusty was having an affair with Carolyn. Like when they first, at the table when Rusty says, "Hey, look, kids, I've been having an affair." Both of them, and even Kyle knows that she's been having, because that he's biked past her house, but also she's really angry and upset.
Yeah.
It's like she has no idea what she's done, and I think that's the way I read it, because I went back and watched like literally every single scene because I wanted to see if they'd planted one smidge of tiny, Easter egg in there somewhere, and I really couldn't find anything apart from that, that disassociation conversation she had. But it's almost like she did it, then she kind of was like, wait, like you said, was that a dream? Right. And then she remembered what she did, covered it up, and then it went back in her brain again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, because it's just so strange to me that how she could act that way throughout the series.
And I think also the dissociation part is already, it's set in while she was coming back, and the act of cleaning up was, again, like an autopilot kind of situation. So that was part of, disassociation. It was like the logical thing to do. Like it was after the emotional part, to clean up the car and to cover or dig up the evidence. So that was already the other side of the disassociation. So she was, already had put that away, the act of killing.
Yeah, I think so.
I guess what I thought was going to happen in the finale, and I think it's a little bit more satisfying to me when something like this happens, is that when you finally see the outcome or the reveal at the end, it's like all these disjointed pieces that you had seen prior suddenly pull together and like complete the picture or complete the puzzle. And I didn't really feel like that happened here, because I felt like with Jaden, what she was telling us at the end was all new information. Like it wasn't part of a lot of the little pieces that we had seen before that suddenly, they all make sense now.
Just to counter that point, the other half of the murder is Rusty covering this up. And I think they got that part really right, because
I agree with
that from the beginning, he was the only, I think we even said it in one of the episodes, it could have been possible that he just got there and, because he was the only one that gave a crap about Liam Reynolds, that whole case. And now we know why he was going through all of that.
And we kind of got it half right when we were thinking it was Rusty covered it up, but it was Kyle who committed the murder. We just had the wrong kid.
Rusty not wanting Barbara to testify makes more sense now too, because he thought that she did it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go through the episode now. I really kind of love Tommy and his cat. I know you guys hate it, but he's so worried about her.
Yeah, that was sweet.
I know. In addition to being quite worried about the murder weapon being hand-delivered to his house and fucking up his case, Nika's at the house too, as forensics examines and catalogs the alleged murder weapon. Tommy did not do anything shady with it, so please accept my apologies for my aspersions to your character, Tommy. In the last discussion, it seems like he actually immediately called the cops and Nico in to handle the new evidence properly. We go from Tommy's house being very awake and active to Rusty's quiet family home. At least Barbara's sleeping for once, as Rusty looks over at her right before he gets the call about the murder weapon. And then they all convene in the judge's chambers to once again be offered a mistrial. Man, this judge does not want to finish this case. How many times has she offered them a mistrial? 3, 4? Once again, she's denied. It was funny, though, to me when Raymond's asking how we know for sure it's Carolyn's fireplace poker, and he responds, "We don't. Perhaps you do." And Rusty's like incensed and issues a fuck you, despite the fact we later learn that what Tommy said was exactly accurate. He recognized the missing chip from the poker that he'd used at Carolyn's house for fire purposes, it seems. Shockingly, he does not offer up that information at this time. Tommy's quite worked up. More evidence. People hate him. I like that too. And he can't introduce it as evidence because it proves nothing. It's wild that Tommy permanently leaves the door open to his house in Chicago rather than just giving his neighbor a key to check on his cat.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
And then also hilarious was Raymond's reaction to that, which was, "You have a cat?" Like nobody can actually imagine Tommy as a real person outside of work with an actual pet at home.
I just wrote down Raymond is all of us.
Yeah. Things are getting heated as usual when Raymond removes Rusty from the chambers. Raymond and Maya are trying to convince him that this feels like a plant, that they think that Tommy's being on the up and up here because it doesn't even help him. Nobody really benefits from mentioning the poker in court. That would skew the Liam Reynolds narrative for them, and the jury will probably think it was Rusty that planted it.
I just wanted to shout out Noma Dumezwini, the actress who plays the judge in this scene. And I had seen her in Cursed Child, the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on, what do you call it in London? Like London theater? Anyway, in London, I saw her in that. And then I saw her again in New York, and she was phenomenal. And so I kind of like was just already a fan of her, and I didn't know she was in this. And so I've just really enjoyed her acting in this whole show.
I agree. I had a question about the poker. So I know that it was scrubbed, there were no prints or blood. But what about luminol? Could that have worked with this, where they spray luminol on something and then they can see if there's residue of blood stains or something on it after the fact, even if it's been cleaned?
I think they could, but I don't think that they could lift DNA from it if it has been bleached and scrubbed.
No, but I think, Helen, you said something, or correct me if it was someone else, but that when you have the murder weapon and if there's like splatter or something, you might be able to tell.
Yeah.
Like the height of the murder, you might be able to tell the right or left-handed. There are details you might be able to tell from that. So I was wondering, like, if they even they didn't mention that at all.
They didn't
so
try
I was just
it.
curious about that.
Yeah.
I was curious if forensics had even tried to find remnants of blood splatter on it that might have given them more information, because I had thought that was going to be like smoking gun, quote unquote, where it's like everything has been pointing towards Rusty, but whatever they found on the murder weapon would be what pointed them towards somebody else. But that didn't happen.
I wonder if it's, again, the sort of thing we talked about where Tommy doesn't, because Tommy seems very nervous to introduce anything that could shed doubt on Rusty. So it's like anything that complicates the case, like because if they start going down that path, then they have to present that in court, right? So I'm just wondering if like they avoided even doing the stuff that you're saying because they would have then been legally required to report it.
Is that up to Tommy? Like, is he the one who makes that call if they want to investigate it further?
I think it should be to the police, actually, not the prosecutor.
That's what I was thinking too. It wouldn't be up to Tommy.
That makes sense. That's right.
And also, I don't know if I remembered the fact wrong or if I understood Kumagai's testimony wrong, but I understood that there was blood found on the mantle, and he suggested that she hit the mantle. That's why there was like a bruise on her nose or something, and we don't see that. So again, was it something that Kumagai interpreted wrong, as suggested by the other pathologist that said that the food had been digested already, so maybe the time of death had been different? Or if no one bothered to even like try to recreate the murder scene and try anything with blood spatter pattern and with the injuries that Carolyn had gotten. Like we never get to see, so we don't know, but it looks like no one tried it.
Right.
Now Rusty's explaining the situation to Barbara. She thinks Tommy would leak it to the media, which I guess he doesn't, right? And here is when he tells Barbara that he was making romantic fires for his girlfriend and remembers this is the exact poker he used to do so. He seemed a little sus when he recognized the poker as the murder weapon. He's like, nope, that was it.
Yeah, I found it interesting that he just revealed that so easily.
Yeah, it was weird.
But also now I'm kind of backtracking to literally all of Rusty and Barbara's conversations, because like if he thought that she was the one who did it in the back of his mind, like a lot of his conversations and maybe arguments that they had, like they don't make more sense, and I still think he's a twat, but like he could have been coming across like that way more because of the fact that he thought it was Barbara.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. I think his suspicion of Barbara is an interesting lens to rewatch the show too. I think I'm gonna probably do that.
Also, if you consider his wife killing his mistress who he loves and have on the daily no kind of reaction towards her, like if he suspected this and is covering up for her throughout the episodes, you don't see any kind of resentment, any kind of reaction.
Yeah, really, he didn't.
Or distance. They even, fuck vigorously in the closet. So
it's interesting that because Barbara doesn't seem that way. Barbara doesn't seem the person to just go and, kill someone with a fire poker. And it's weird that that was Rusty's initial thought. Like, I feel like, doesn't he know his wife better than that? I don't know. Like, I feel
here's the other thing. If they really did film episodes 1 through 7 without knowing the outcome, then you almost can't go back and watch and look for those details because they didn't have all that information when they were performing it.
I guess you got to rely on the writing though, right?
Yeah, on the writing and or on direction.
Defense has called another pathologist to the stand that is testifying that she thinks Carolyn died hours after what Kumagai determined. Seems like a super weak case to me, though, since, as Tommy points out, she might just have not eaten the Chinese she ordered. There's no evidence at all that she did eat the Chinese. And then Rusty came to visit not long after it arrives. And we know they fought. Kind of kills your hunger anyway. But I don't know. It seemed like a very weak case to me. But I do like the word duodenum. So I erroneously thought it was duodenum before now.
I was really shocked to actually see the actress Marilyn Reinsve, I think you pronounce her last name, from 24. Yes. I was like, hey, I knew you.
The whole cast is like that,
This really, again, I keep being kind of like shocked and surprised by how our legal system works, because they were saying how this pathologist was like pro-defense, or like she was like hired by the defense, so she only gets paid if she presents evidence that supports the defense. What the fuck?
I know, right? I mean, that's all Tommy had to say. It's like, it's so shady.
Way too biased.
Yeah, that's not okay.
Back in Rusty's kitchen, Barbara is very willing to testify, which I immediately thought would be a terrible idea, but Maya couldn't have made that point any better. She effortlessly rolls through, 6 or 7 brutal questions that Tommy would delight in asking her, highlighting her shitty husband and her shitty marriage, and then Clifton. Boom. Even Maya knows all about Clifton, which was presumably still just that one kiss. They decide to rest their case after all, and Rusty informs them he's closing. It's his life, it's his decision, and Raymond's protests fall on deaf ears. Rusty's just enraged that his own lawyers doubt him, one of which happens to be his best friend.
I was just going to say shout out to Gabby Beans, who plays Maya, because I've really loved her in this series. I haven't seen her in anything before, but I love the way they also like styled her with the costume, the hair, like the makeup. She, like the whole look, and in this scene, she just delivered. It was great.
I thought Rusty was so arrogant here too, that he would rather the jury doubt him than not close his own case. The way he phrased that was so, I don't know.
Lo wants Raymond to withdraw, which of course he won't, but he promises to go full Thornton Wilder with her and go for walks, drink iced tea, and embrace the ordinary. But first he has to do this. Rusty's practicing his closing speech in the shed when Jaden comes in looking real nervous. I didn't quite follow the astronomy into Julius Caesar transition, but can see the similarity Rusty's pointing out here. His friends having no faith in him being like getting stabbed in the back. Jaden clearly doesn't think he should do the summation either, but she just gives him one of her excellent hugs and lets him proceed. Kyle's just nailing the garage door with baseballs after that, and Jaden's stressing by the pool. Barbara's stressing inside, and then it's go time.
I love that shot of Jaden by the pool.
That was art. That was perfect. Like, I want it on my wall. The shot was perfection.
I want season 2 of this show to just be Raymond and Lo.
Yeah.
The adventures of Ray and Lo on his retirement.
That would be so cute.
Living happily ever after.
That's it. That's what I want. On a cruise,
Yeah.
like in Hawaiian
Yeah.
shirts. That's what I want.
Even when we saw them, that little bit of gardening, it gave me so much joy. I was like, oh, bless
Same.
them.
No, but I think it was like the most deeming thing, or the biggest clue I think that we got in the whole show was Rusty saying "etu daughter" to Jaden. So like,
Yeah.
you know, her being also guilty in a way. So that was like the biggest, I think.
Without him even realizing it.
Yeah, and that was the transition to Julius Caesar from the
Yeah.
astronomy AP class, which was brilliant. I thought that was a very good line of Jaden.
I was looking at her wardrobe because I could have sworn she wore more than one time, like good vibes, positive. But there was she wore the same shirt twice in different episodes, like positive energy. So I found that kind of funny now that we know that she's the one who did it. Like, she's wearing the positive energy shirt the night after what she did.
It does make it much funnier. Another drone shot of Chicago, and Rusty's remembering being intimate with Carolyn while Raymond's drilling his last-minute advice into him. His family's there. Barbara's got her hand on Kyle's shoulder to comfort him. Have Kyle and Rusty spoken in like 5 episodes? I guess they said a couple words earlier in the kitchen, but I don't know. I was still suspecting Kyle at this point in my first watch of this episode. And now it's time for Rusty to close. And I thought it was phenomenal. He repeatedly emphasizes he's kind of an asshole and a terrible husband and father, but he did not kill Carolyn Polhemus. And the evidence supports that. It's all circumstantial. Jake's so good. The genuine emotion
Nailed
and
it.
shame and guilt. I think you see it actually all together, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Such a great performance. He ends by acknowledging that circumstances point to him, but they could also point to several other people angry with Carolyn. He highlights Tommy's obvious vendetta against him and then tells the jury in tears that he deserves their contempt, but ironically, his life hangs on the hope that they are better, more honorable people than he is, and will not convict him on circumstantial evidence. It was such a great statement to end on, I thought.
Yeah, it was beautifully done.
Like you said, Kate, I think it was genuine. I felt like it was real. I didn't think he was bullshitting them. It seemed very
It got to me. Like I got choked up listening to it.
He was so true, like also with the facts that they didn't even investigate like Michael and his dad or Liam Reynolds, like at all.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they're guilty. It's just like, investigate them too. Don't put all your focus on me.
Yeah.
Because all they had was circumstantial evidence, which is absolutely true.
Right.
So he could fit it, but other people could too. And that was his whole point. And that creates the reasonable doubt, which
he succeeded in that. He succeeded in that, in bringing or delivering reasonable doubt. But then again, as soon as he sat down, I had like an inkling of maybe it is him, because in that moment, when he sat down, it was like a robot, like going to his, baseline mode, waiting, new task to do. But it's probably just his. It's like a reaction. It's probably was his reaction not to go into the negative emotions, so just to to dissociate in this moment. But it read for me for a second. It read as if he just lied and sat down and didn't even take a breath and feel, I don't know, relieved in a way.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's done so well, is walk that line through the entire series, so that you sometimes get that feeling like, I feel like no, he didn't do it. Then it's like, but maybe he could have. I mean, it's like it always keeps going back and forth right up until the end. I think that's the Rusty portion of this narrative, of this story, I think was told really beautifully, because it just kept me guessing the entire time.
Yeah, if I was on that jury, I think there's like no possible way that I could convict him after that speech. It just, it put a lot of really good points forward, and it's like, yeah, you can't ignore those things. So
That's their job, is to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they have any doubt, they can't find him guilty. That's what they're supposed to do anyway.
right. And I did have the same, well, not exactly the same, but I had a similar thing, Helen, where I was like, because this speech was so good and he nailed it, and it seems like, okay, definitely I can take him fully off the list now. I was like, but wait, once you take someone fully off the list, is that setting them up to be the actual one who did it?
Exactly.
You know, like that's like the exact position they want us to feel right now. And then obviously, because at that point I'm thinking, okay, he's probably just won the case. Like, you know, they're probably going to find him innocent. Well, is that going to be wrongfully innocent now? And he actually did kill her. So yeah, all that went through my head.
The other thing that they did well was showing Tommy and Nico's reactions to his closing statement, because they were squirming the whole time. They knew he was doing a good job and he was nailing it, and they really had to bring it, or else they were toast. And just that Tommy even having his face just in his hand like that, and I was like, that just sealed it for me. I was reacting to it, but the fact that they were squirming, I was like, okay, he's doing a really good job.
Tommy was wearing his bolo tie in all of these courtroom scenes too. So I'm like, is he gonna burn it now?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it didn't work.
That bolo was popping off the screen. I could not keep my eyes off that damn tie. Like, I was just like, whoa, that's an interesting one.
Raymond seems pleased with Rusty's performance too. And now Tommy's turn to answer with his own closing. He brilliantly reminds the jury that Rusty's love felt more like an obsession to those around him that weren't Rusty. Tommy says that Rusty claims to have wanted nothing more than to catch Carolyn's killer, and yet he was in charge of the investigation initially and did the exact opposite, purposefully obstructing the investigation. Then he reminds him of his violent streak, attacking the Emmy and beating up Ratzer. Reminds him of his specific angry text to Carolyn, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" right before showing the gory photos again. Also perfectly played, in my opinion. I don't think Tommy could have crafted that any better, really, even if it wasn't enough. And then it's time for the interminable feeling wait. We learn in A Memory of Carolyn that the longer the jury deliberates, the more it favors the defense. There are a couple more beautiful shots of Chicago and a shot of Atlas with the world on his shoulders. Very appropriate. And then Nico's trying to get Tommy out of the office, makes another cat joke, as Tommy's still stressing that Rusty planted the poker as his insurance policy. Solid thought. And right after Nico directly asks him, "How much did you love her?" Eugenia comes in and announces the verdict is in already, which is supposed to be good for them coming in this fast, but they don't look too excited.
I was just going to go back to when Rusty finishes his statement, sits down, and Raymond seems like really pleased by it or touched by it. I was just thinking back again to when he was really upset at him for not feeling guilt. And I feel like it's almost like he came to terms with his guilt in the speech that he gave.
That's a good
you know what I
point.
mean? And like Raymond, it's kind of seemed like Raymond was like, okay, good job. You finally like feel what you should feel here.
Yeah, let's hope it was genuine. Which I still feel like it was, but yeah.
I think it was.
I didn't catch that from Raymond, but I like that. I think you're right.
I agree as well, yeah.
Yeah. And the way he put his like hand on Rusty's shoulder, it was really sweet.
Yeah. It was like any of the tension that was there between them kind of melted there.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out how the sound was when we first entered the courtroom. Like, it sounded like almost heartbeats, and it just kept like speeding up as we got in there, and it was so suspenseful. And just the way they shot the whole court sequences, I thought that was amazing.
I think it wasn't only Raymond, but I think also Nico was surprised that Tommy has a cat. It looked to me that Nico was like,
he gave
I'm
him
also
a hard
concerned
time.
about the cat.
I'm worried about
you
the
never
cat.
told me about. So then I had to think for a moment that Rusty didn't know that Carolyn had a son. And it's like, sometimes you feel like you are very close with someone, but then you learn things about them that you like, they don't compute. like we did. Like
Mhm.
Tommy has a
Yeah.
pet, what?
Yeah.
And Raymond was the same, and Nico was also surprised. So it jibes with or goes well with the song that closes the episode. It's like you don't know me, you know me, but you
Yeah.
don't know me.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Especially with Carolyn, because they were, I mean, really, you would think they had an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
But I think that
Yeah.
also shows how it was. Rusty was more all in than she was, like or more invested than she was. She wasn't, it doesn't seem like now looking back that she was willing to open up her whole life to him. Like she had parts of herself that she closed off, even though she seemed to know everything about Rusty. So the fact that she kept something huge, like the fact that she had a son, a teenage son from him who, you know, he was in love with her. He thought they were in love with each other. And then it was this intimate relationship. I think that was just a telling thing for him, especially after the fact that how much did he really know about her? If there was she had a whole child, she had a son that he never knew about.
But also like how close Nico and Tommy really are. Like Nico was never at his house even.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really things you assume about people that are close to you that you are close and intimate, but everyone is it's okay for everyone to have secrets and not share everything and keep stuff to themselves and not share even with the closest people.
Yeah. Somebody that I mean, the two of them seem like they spent more time together than apart. And yeah, he still needed his privacy and his secrets, but like the things that he kept for himself that were like who he really was, like outside of the job, I guess.
We watch a montage of everybody getting ready for court again, looking very nervous, everybody. And then the jury's walking in. I love the music here. The jurist hands the verdict to the guard to take to the judge, and she reads it to herself. I feel like her face made me think he was guilty, but she just
Me
says,
too. Me too.
I almost thought that she thought the decision was, she was like, huh, that's what they've decided. I thought it would go the other way. Like that's what I thought it was. Yeah.
I wish she had said that.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a would have been funny. Just
Yeah.
okay.
right. But the judge just says, all right, and makes him stand before the court clerk reads the verdict. Not guilty. Rusty takes it very stoically, but they do zoom in on his daughter's smile and everybody else's reaction, of course. Raymond's sweet. And again, I love the music here. The family's running into the car after that, and then they're just back home. Barbara remarking it almost doesn't feel real. It really must be very odd coming home from that and just going about life immediately afterwards, after that kind of ordeal.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Rusty's reaction? I thought it was almost too stone-faced. Like for any other time I've ever seen anyone found not guilty, whether in real life or on a TV drama or whatever, there's some semblance of relief. There's maybe, I don't know, there's something that kind of signifies their feeling, and he has almost zero reaction.
But I wonder if that's because he still thinks Barbara did it. So it's like, great, I'm not going to prison, but like now I have to go home and deal with the fact that my wife killed my
I guess so. I just still think it's
and also
strange.
he tied her up, so you know.
Yeah.
He still was involved in it.
Yeah.
I honestly find the kind of like joy and relief in movies and shows a little bit unrealistic to me personally, because I feel like if that happened to me, I wouldn't be able to emote or react until I got out of there. But maybe that's just me. But I feel like it would be hard for me to have much of a reaction.
His complete non-reaction, I guess it does. I guess it makes sense. Even when I rewatched it the second time after knowing the outcome, it still just didn't quite sit exactly right with me. But I don't know.
Like Helen said earlier, he was very like robotic kind of, and actually in this moment is when I kind of knew he had some kind of involvement. I didn't know what, but I was almost sure that because they didn't, he was not guilty. I was almost positive that he had something to do with it.
Yeah. Or knew more than he let on. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like I was thinking, oh, he's gotten away with it or something.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
When they're at the house, I think Jaden is the one that kind of remarks on, so now it's done, right? They can't reopen the case.
Yeah.
So it reads differently when you know that she's probably scared that it's something else is going to come out.
Rusty talks to the press. He's angry, reminds everyone her murderer is still out there, and the prosecutor's office failed her. Even Tommy's cat is leaving him as Rusty hones his attack in on Tommy specifically. Tommy's so sad. Back in the office, Nico's trying to cheer up Tommy. He tried a great case, and it's time to move on to the other wonderfully heinous people in Chicago. And personally, Tommy's got to move on from Rusty.
I don't want to say it, but I felt a bit sorry for Tommy in this episode, even though he's still a major creeper.
I did too. I felt sorry for him several times.
I mean, he was way too obsessed with Rusty to see past basically anything. He wasn't actually that magnificent at all, even though his arguments were very good. Like in the court, I think he did a really good job.
He did his job well.
But yeah, way too focused.
Yeah, definitely. It was really kind of Nico too, I thought, like to say that to him, even though they lost. Like to make that comment, like, you did a really good case. Let's move on. But like, you did well, even though we lost.
When he was listening to Rusty's words at the his press statement, I think it really got to him that he failed Carolyn, because I think there possibly was, I mean, I guess now that we know the truth, Rusty was in cover-up mode, but in putting all his focus on Rusty, it is possible that he let the true killer go free. So he probably was left with those feelings like, maybe he did the best he could in this trial, but he failed Carolyn ultimately because there's no justice for her.
Yeah, it's almost exactly what he says. Her death will go unavenged because I wasn't good enough. So even at that point, he fails to see that it's not because he wasn't good enough. It was because he had not the right suspect.
Right.
So that was the reason why in this case.
Yeah.
But even then, he's too much focused on Rusty.
Right. Like thinking I should have convicted him rather than I should have found the actual person who did this.
Right.
Right.
And I like Nico's attitude. I think, for as smarmy as he comes off, his stance on all of this has always been pretty on the straight and narrow. I mean, he always wanted to follow the facts and follow the evidence. And now he says, there's plenty of bad guys out there to get. There's more work to be done. I liked when he finished with, there's work to be done. Let's get on with it. Like, let's move on. I thought that was a good way to end his character.
Back at the Sabich stead, Rusty finds a suitcase packed by Barbara. He goes to confront her in the shed as she's working out, and she admits it's hers. And it's a threat for if he ever hurts her family again. And I guess it's also a statement that she's sticking with him until he does. But then things take a real unexpected turn or three. But first, let me just say again that Ruth Negga is fucking amazing, as is Jake Gyllenhaal. Even more phenomenal, though, than their previously phenomenal performances. This one was just incredible to watch.
Incredible. Agreed.
Excuse my French, but she absolutely fucking killed it.
She did. From her very first, brutal line, for the next time, should you ever impulsively strike to destroy this family? It's such a badass. I loved her face. Everything.
And actually, right when she said the impulsively strike to destroy the family, I was like, oh shit, did he actually kill her? And Barbara knows, and that's what she means here.
Yeah.
Or the 2 seconds before something else happens in the scene to change that. But
well, and that keeps happening. Every new sentence, I was like, oh, he did.
No, you're right.
And it's cool how it's done. So yeah. So the term next time really sets Rusty off, it seems. And he starts with some sentences that make no sense to her or us just yet. I actually knew from the beginning, and then I didn't know, and then I knew again for sure. She tells him she doesn't have a clue what he's on about, and she seems quite believable. And then he drops the real bomb in the next statement. All that was going through my head was just, this was my doing, this was my fault, this was my doing, and I had to do what I had to do to protect my family, to protect you, so I did. So after those sentences, I was like, oh shit, he did kill her. Maybe because of the baby, like Eugenia had thought, but then it changes as he continues. He tells her how baffled he was by how normal she was the next day. How can you kill someone in such anger and then just go about your day like nothing happened? Which is still a valid question, but for another person. The look on Barbara's face, like the sweat and the desperate, shocked way she asks, "You think I killed Carolyn?" And he gives her an excuse. "I think it was someone else in your body, just like it was someone else in my body that tied her up to cover for you." So many revelations.
Ooh.
I know. Watching Barbara try to process all of this is just like watching a masterclass in acting by Ruth.
Can you imagine the shock? And she's portraying it perfectly, just like the shock rippling through her body as he's just like, I mean, one boom, like one like nail after another, just boom, boom, boom. And all of this is brand new information for her because he's wrong. Like, it's not like he's revealing to her for real what she did. And so it's just for her, she's just thinking, my husband is insane, and oh my God, he's guilty, and oh my God, and like all of that is like processing at once. It's amazing.
I actually had the thought that like she was like, what I did this? And I was like, I thought she may have been I thought she might have been the one who was disassociating.
There, at one point I thought that too.
Maybe.
And I wondered if she was questioning it, like when she said that, well, we'll get there, but when she's the tracker to like driving to Tommy's house, and she's like, what?
Yeah.
But first, Rusty gets into more details. He went back there that night. He almost called 911, but then she was clearly dead, and he realized there was only one person who could have been angry enough to do this, and he decided to protect her. Barbara seems like she's about to pass out. What about Liam Reynolds? Rusty never thought it was him, not for a second. He just wanted to protect Barbara. He brings up Jaden and her disassociation idea, and he realizes that's how she did it. Ruth responds that he's insane and that he's wrong, but then Rusty explains why he's so sure now. He did track her car, like we thought a couple episodes ago, but it didn't end in a confrontation with Clifton, as I was expecting. It ended with him seeing that it was Barbara's car that drove to Tommy's that night to deliver the murder weapon. And he came to the most obvious conclusion. Barbara had the murder weapon because Barbara murdered her challenger for Rusty's love. It's kind of logical.
The way that she said, "You're wrong," was like amazing. Like, I love that so much. It was great.
Yeah, and like you can just see her like really struggling. Like, my car went to Tommy's. That's the only part that's the part where I was like, I wonder if she's like questioning herself at this point, or.
And I think she was. I think you guys are right. I think you're right. Because I think the way that this all hit her probably had her questioning her own sanity and her own sense of reality. Like, is he right? Did I black out? Did I do something and black out or something?
And I have no recollection of it.
Almost got to that point before.
Right before. Like, Barbara's just trying and unable to process everything he's saying. That she went to Tommy's that night, because what does that mean when Jaden suddenly appears with a simple "no, she didn't"? And finally we find out who done it, the literal only person we never suspected throughout the entire show. I was so focused on Kyle and didn't even look over at Jaden. Anyway, she immediately admits to planning the fire poker. She thought he was screwed after his testimony, and it was the only thing she could think to do. Ruth's no's here are just like palpably soul-shattering and real. And as a mom, I get it. It's too late. Your daughter's like tarnished her soul and her whole life, and it's unbearable to like begin to process. But Jaden continues. She went to Carolyn's to scare her away from her father, to tell her to stay away from their family. But then Carolyn tells her that it's Rusty. Her dad is the one that won't leave Carolyn alone. And then Carolyn makes a very questionable decision and tells Jaden she's pregnant with her father's child before she's even told Rusty. And she seems to me to almost like get off on hurting her like this in that moment. Did you guys feel like that also, or no?
I think I did too.
But I wonder if it's through Jaden's filter.
Could be.
Like, she felt
it's her memory.
That was, why Carolyn had meant.
It was what she said that set her off. And so maybe that's how she's remembering how it came off. But I kind of agree that if it did go down that way, which I guess we'll never know because we never get Carolyn's actual point of view, but it just sort of comes off like she's almost rubbing it in her face a little bit, like you're never going to be truly rid of me because we're going to be connected because I'm pregnant with his child. She didn't really seem to have a lot of sensitivity there, that what she's telling to her is painful for her to hear.
And that's way worse but it made me think about back to when they were having their affair, and she would talk about or she would try to bring Barbara into the room when they were having sex, sort of.
Right.
I forget what she was asking, but what would your wife think? Or
she's always approached us with some mindfuckery, whether it's with Rusty or in this circumstance, if that's really how she was.
Right.
Well, and I was thinking too how we had the idea that maybe Michael was there and found out she was pregnant and killed her, and it was no, it was just a different kid, but same moment of
we suspected Michael and Kyle, and we just got the wrong kid.
And then we get to see the actual murder scene. Jaden had no mercy, and Tommy was right. Carolyn definitely did not see it coming. Neither did we, of course. And then Jaden tells how she drove home, almost convincing herself it was all a dream, but wisely snapped out of the dream enough to meticulously clean the car and bury the murder weapon, the fire poker. There's a great but sad shot of her in fetal position in the back of the car, and back in real time, Rusty snaps into dad mode. We never speak of this again, and it's not your fault. I created the situation. You were just trying to protect our family. It was self-defense in a way. And then he repays her with one of her much-needed, genuinely loving hugs.
I was actually kind of shocked that Rusty put it on himself. Obviously I think he seems to be very close with her throughout the whole show, but I actually kind of like that he did that.
Yeah.
He was just it was my fault. I'm the one who caused all of this.
Yeah, I think he's had a shift in this episode.
Yeah, I don't think he would have done that for Kyle, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I wonder if his whole view on what happened is different in this episode, though. Overall, it just seems like he's come to a different place and accepting his guilt in it. So I don't know.
I think this may explain his reaction at the not guilty verdict too, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think he does feel responsible for everything, whether or not he's the one who struck her with the poker or not. His actions caused everything, and that's why he keeps coming back to, I'm responsible. It's my fault. And I think even if it was Barbara or if it was his son or daughter or whatever, the choices he made, and it's how he made them feel that caused them to act in that way. So even if all he did was cover it up and he's not the one who actually murdered her, he does feel responsible.
I feel like he is. He's right with what he's saying. He caused everything. This is also unbearable stress for Jaden. And she felt for her mother. Yeah, she saw her mother in the situation, being with a husband who's cheating on her and staying with them because of the family. So she was suffering because of this as well. So she was also scared of losing this, of losing the family, the stability that she had, of losing this, seemingly perfect parents and her life. So that was everything that was caused by Rusty's affair. Yeah, Rusty's action. So he was not the one, swinging the fire poker, but he, he's presumed innocent, but he is not innocent.
Yeah.
And I guess Jaden did kind of succeed in defending her happy family, because the show ends with a montage of happy family lives, a bit like the beginning when all was well for a second. Raymond's delivering on his promises to Lo as they water their gorgeous flowers. Jaden's laying in a blanket, looking content with her Stanley. Maybe it's a Stanley, I don't know. Tommy's happy watching football with his cat. The Sabich family is laughing happily at dinner. A real weight off Kyle's shoulders, you can tell. Barbara is looking lovingly at Rusty until he looks back at her, and perhaps it becomes a little something else. I wasn't quite 100% there. What did you guys think?
It's hard to say. I feel it's like a twisted feeling of camaraderie coming out of this.
Yeah.
They managed to rescue everything in the last second, even though it cost someone's life. And probably it will have long-term effects on Jaden as well. So
unless she's a psychopath, because she seemed really okay with it ever since. But I don't know, it's very interesting. I would struggle to live a happy life after that, I think. But
I don't know how you'd live with your daughter just striking and murdering someone with a fire poker, especially straight away. But I guess I don't I don't know, it'd be very hard to live with, that's for sure.
I guess it's also maybe the case of the disassociation coming
Right.
in. Like they
Yeah, you kinda
compartmentalize
have
it,
to.
they put it away.
Yeah, you
Maybe
kinda have
keep an eye on Jaden. How is she doing? But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Rusty protected his family after all. Obviously, I don't condone what he did, but it's interesting that he was willing to go to those lengths to protect his wife and his family. I wasn't reading him that way all along, obviously. It's very shocking that he never told Barbara, like during the whole thing when he's at the times when he's mad at her, like never saying like I'm gonna protect you, you know?
Yeah, it's surprising, but also what kind of strength do you need to have to keep going without slipping, without having a reaction to the thing that you suspect is true, that your wife killed your lover, you know? You couldn't really see that. So I don't know if it's Rusty's strength.
And I guess he questioned it too, and for a period of time he wasn't sure it was her, and he was sure that he had tied her up, so
Yeah.
maybe he
Yeah.
didn't want to out that.
I still think that it's interesting that he did think it was her. Like, it just doesn't seem like her personality at all. So yeah, that was kind of odd to me. But even before the tracker, he had suspicions that it was her. So
It did allow him, just the way that it was done, you think back and he was being honest every single time. He was like, I didn't kill her. Like, you know, nobody ever asked, well, did you tie her up? Or, you know, so it was easy for him to honestly defend himself in her murder, because that's the only question that was ever phrased, you know.
One thing I've noticed throughout this episode, but maybe a couple of more before, that there's like wine glasses or wine bottles popping up, but in this episode, especially the last couple of scenes, there's wine everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's either a bottle or a glass of wine. And I also noticed that Carolyn also had an open bottle of wine and a glass at her home in Jaden's memory, or in the recreation of the scene, which is interesting.
Well, she was pregnant too, so.
Yeah. They have to drink a lot to deal with all that shit.
Yeah.
It's gonna be their soothing mechanism, probably.
So the date didn't end up meaning anything, but I feel like we should, like, because we cut apart in the last episode explaining we'd found something else. So Carolyn was killed on June 16th of what we think is what, 2023?
Yeah.
But there was a scene in episode 4 when Rigo and Rusty went to interview Ratzer and asked him where he was on June 16th, 2019.
Well, they said they were investigating.
Well, they said that after he was like, why? What's the like crime? So for me, it felt like they were just like making something up, a reason up, like out of the blue, that wasn't being honest about what they were investigating. Because it seemed like they had to have been asking about the night of that she was either kidnapped or murdered. To me, Bunny Davis.
Yeah.
Because why else would they ask about this specific date in 2019, June 16th, 2019? If they hadn't said 2019, you could think that they're asking about Carolyn's murder, right?
No.
But 2019 was definitely a few years in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, the 2019 must have had to do with Bunny Davis, because later on they talked to Ratzer and, you know, say that his semen was at the scene, so not at the scene, but in Bunny. So that must have been like roughly the same time frame. Because why would Rigo say 2019 if Bunny Davis's murder was 2022?
Right. Well, but then it is also confusing because there is an autopsy report that you could see at one point that.
Yeah, it says 2020.
I think there's a mistake on there. I think it says 2020 on one line and 2023 on another.
It does.
But the date is not June 16th. It is like July 26th or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what. So the date, I think that I guess that was probably just a mistake asking about June 16th, 2019 in episode 4. Is that what you guys are assuming?
I think that the June 16th comment from Rigo had to have been a mistake, because if she was kidnapped on June 16th, then that's a month and a half before the autopsy date, which doesn't really check out with what they've said, right?
If you forget the year as well.
So, yeah, of course. Yes. Right. Ah, damn it. I keep forgetting about the year. either June 16th, 2019 is a mistake, or July 26th, 2020 is a mistake.
Yeah. Either way, it didn't end up being relevant. So I don't
Yeah.
think they probably intended it for it to be the same date.
But it was fun to take a deep dive
Yeah,
together.
for sure. Good catch. For sure. Do you guys have other comments at all?
Yeah, like generally, I want to applaud the show for the diversity. There's, I mean, like people of color and individuals with disabilities and women speaking as experts on the case. So that was a very good, like, I think, representation of how things are, and not like the whole show is very believable in many ways and very authentic looking in many ways, and this adds to it. It makes it really believable that the casting was so diverse, and so that I wanted to applaud that. I was very positively pleased with this.
Yeah, I was impressed with that too. Good point. Well, and it's the type of show too where like the acting is so good that you fully disappear into them as being these characters, even if you recognize them from other things. Like a big thing for me when I kind of stop watching something and I go like, man, that's this person, and you don't think about it being them, you think about it being this character that you're watching. And I think there was not a single person where I was taken out like, oh, I'm seeing the actor and not the character here, you know?
And I just wanted to mention, obviously, the directing by Anne Sawitsky and Greg Utanis. Just phenomenal work. And the cinematography by Daniel Voldheim and Doug Emmett. And it's definitely probably one of my favorite shows, just the way it was shot. It was just so pretty. And even, I didn't mention, there was a shot in the final scenes where it's shot from below of a Chicago train. Like, it was just so pretty. Everything was just amazing. And I mean, I could go on forever about the costume design, the makeup, the hair, the sound. Everybody on this show just absolutely killed it.
I think it absolutely adds to everything. It's not just for the sake of someone trying to show a couple of nice shots for the audience to, I don't know, maybe recapitulate or I don't know, think on the scene. But they're like, there's everything so well thought through and so engaging. That was really one of the best things I've seen for a very long time.
Yeah, you make a good point too, because a lot of the time I feel like people throw away establishing shots because they're just like, well, we have to show the building or the street where this person is. And it's like they don't take as much time to make that as interesting as the rest of what they're shooting, because it's just trying to set up the location. But the show took the care to like make even those shots absolutely
meaningful
and have like emotional weight, and give you more than just, okay, I know where we are now. It's like, I know where we are, I know how I should feel, I know how these characters feel just from looking at this shot of the city. So that takes a lot of they didn't skimp on any of those.
And also from the storytelling point of view, I actually didn't mind all the red herrings and all the possibilities that were explored and shown. Also taking away from the actual murder, I feel it's more believable that way when you don't get you get like a whole overview of a case happening. So it's you're not being led by the narration too much. So I liked having this more neutral view and possible avenues that they went or didn't go, but they were there and we talked about them. Like Eugenia, she's like for 3 seconds in the finale, right? But there's enough for us to construct a possibility. And actually I like that. I like that in the end. And I have some thoughts about Jaden. Maybe there is a little too little to point to her, but the shock of the reveal was perfection.
Yeah, I agree that I don't mind the red herrings and the, suspicion of every single person in the cast. Like, I think that was part of what was so fun about watching this.
Yeah, I did get bummed out though that it wasn't Michael and it wasn't Eugenia and we didn't
I
figure it
know.
out.
Like,
I
man,
was
we were so-
outside.
We
Yeah.
had such good
Yeah.
ideas. Y'all, you know what I was just thinking would be actually a really cool idea for them to have used is if Rusty found out that he accidentally covered for Tommy killing Carolyn. Like he thought it was Barbara.
Oh my God.
And so he covered it, but then he discovers, you know, oh shit, I covered for my nemesis.
That might be the most brilliant ending ever, because then they'd be like mutually assured destruction and they hate each other, and it would have been the best ending ever.
Yeah, seriously. And then they could have like a confrontation where they have to like face the fact that this happened between them. And they're like bound for life now because they both participated in a murder together.
Oh my God, that would be the best ending to their mutual hate-filled relationship that could ever happen. And a really good ending, because, you know, he kills her out of, you know, everybody's suspecting him half the time anyway.
Right, right.
It was very fun though. It was very fun, like week by week, trying to dissect everything and you know, just trying to literally read into literally every little thing. It was awesome.
All right, I guess that's a wrap on our discussions of Presumed Innocent until season 2 comes out. We do have a few interviews coming out though, so check back often. We spoke with amazing makeup designer Donald Moet yesterday, who is the head of makeup on Presumed Innocent, and he's done lots of other incredible movies like Dune, Prisoners. Look at his IMDb. It's never ending, and he's done so many movies that we all know and love. And we're speaking with Greg Yutanis, director of 5 of the episodes of Presumed Innocent, tomorrow, as well as some of the cast. So check back soon and listen to those. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.